Hello and welcome back to Culinary Haven. Culinary Haven is celebrating its 3rd birthday, and for this occasion I would like to share with you one of my favorite recipes, raspberry Traybake with almond and cinnamon streusel. What you get is a top layer of clusters of crunchy streusel, and underneath that a light, moist and fragrant raspberry cake. It's absolutely delicious and it's really lovely to have with a cup of coffee or tea. Let's begin. To make a raspberry Traybake with almond and cinnamon streusel, we'll need 300 grams of plain flour, 250 grams of sugar, 125 ml of either buttermilk, kefir or plain drinking yogurt. Whichever you can get is fine. Either of these 3 dairy products have a very similar consistency and acidity. 150 grams of butter softened to room temperature, 2 large eggs, 300 grams of fresh raspberries, a zest of 1 small lemon, half a teaspoon of salt, 2 teaspoons of baking powder and 1 teaspoon of vanilla. And for the streusel we'll need 50 grams of plain flour, 100 grams of sugar, half a teaspoon of cinnamon, 50 grams of almond flakes and 60 grams of butter, also at room temperature. And you'll also need a tray, hence the Traybake. Any baking tray that has a depth of at least 4 centimeters, 1.5 inch, lined with baking parchment. And I'm going to make it with this electric whisk. You can also do it in a stand mixer with a paddle attachment, or you can do it by hand with a manual whisk. And we'll start with preparing the streusel. Let's prepare the streusel. The streusel is a crumbly, crunchy topping that you put on top of a fruit crumble or a muffin or a Traybake. So we'll just put the flour and the sugar into a small bowl, whisk it together, add the cinnamon, half a teaspoon, whisk it again, add the butter, and with a spatula just mix it together. And now we'll add the almonds, 50 grams of almonds, flaked almonds, and just mix it together until you see that it sort of formed clusters, and that's what we're looking for. The bits that will bake and create a beautiful, delicious, crunchy topping. Okay, just check my hand. This is it. The streusel is ready. So that's it, ready. Lovely chunky clusters, and we'll just put it aside in the meantime, and we're going to prepare the batter. We'll start with mixing together the butter and the sugar. Whisk it until it's nice and fluffy. When the butter is soft like this, it's a few seconds that it will take to be nice and fluffy. Let's see. Yeah, just 5 more seconds and we're there. That's enough. Nice and fluffy. And now we'll add the eggs, 1 at a time. blend it in. And the other. For the perfect consistency of the batter and the cake, I would advise you to use all the ingredients at the same temperature, room temperature. And now we're going to add 1 teaspoon of pure vanilla extract. Next is the lemon zest, just grate it directly into the bowl. Make sure that your lemon is unwaxed lemon, and if it is waxed, scrub it really well before you grate the zest. This is not a small lemon, so probably a large lemon, just half. Adding the lemon zest, it enhances the flavor and the fragrance of the raspberries. Just give it a little stir, and scrape the walls. And now we're going to add the buttermilk or kefir or yogurt, whichever you're using, which is also, obviously we keep dairy products in the fridge. Just take it out about 30 minutes before you start baking, measure it and leave it on the kitchen top. Just pour it in. And this is the last I use, the electric whisk, because it's very easy to overmix, and it's very important not to overmix your batter if you want your cake to be nice, light and fluffy. So we're going to use from this onwards just a rubber spatula. We're going to sift in the flour, salt and the baking powder. Half a teaspoon of salt and 2 teaspoons of baking powder. All of it into the sieve and just sift it into the bowl. That's it. And now with the spatula, fold it in gently, just until combined. Don't overdo it, don't overmix it. That's enough. There's some bits of flour left, but now we're adding the raspberries. 300 grams of fresh raspberries. And also fold them in, just like so. Some of them will be broken in the process, but that's not a bad thing, that's a good thing. So we'll have some whole raspberries and some raspberry pieces. This is it. It's ready. And now we'll just put it in the prepared, it's lined with baking parchment baking tray. Transfer it onto the tray. I prefer using aluminium baking trays because they're the best conductors of heat and also the best at distributing the heat. And now we'll just, with an offset spatula, gently spread it around the tray, like this. Look at that. Isn't that just beautiful? You want to eat it right now. If you think that's way too much raspberries and it will be too wet or soggy, it won't be. It will be an absolute perfection. There you go. And now on top of that, we'll just sprinkle our streusel all over our cake. This amount will be enough to cover the whole surface of the cake. If you don't have a deep baking tray, you can also do it in just a cake tin, but then you might need to adjust the baking time, because if your baking tin is smaller, it will be, the cake will be taller and needs longer to bake. That's it, done. And now we are going to place it into the preheated to 180 degrees Celsius oven for 60 minutes, 1 hour, rotating halfway. This is it, our raspberry Traybake with almond and cinnamon streusel is ready. And now I'm going to lift it out from the tray, holding the parchment like so, onto a wire rack. Isn't it beautiful? And let it cool before we slice it. It's perfectly baked on all sides, and it's even. It has this lovely, still very, very hot, crunchy topping, and underneath, when you cut it, you will see that it's very moist, very light, and absolutely delicious. Thank you for watching this episode of Culinary Haven. I hope you enjoyed it. And until next time, bye.